Hello and welcome back in Libupedia. In the last centuries of the Roman Empire, many revolutions led by different individuals and groups occurred. When talking about Africa, leaders such as Tacfarinas with the Musulames and a demon in Mauritania are the first that come to mind in this context. However, there is another player who had a more important impact, the Bavars. Who were they? And what did they do? These and other questions will be answered in this video. At first glance, many experts have suggested that Babar is a distortion of Babres. However, Mcherek argues that the name originates from an indigenous Libyan term mentioned in an inscription on a stele found in the region of Chefia in northeast Algeria. The reason why most inscriptions mention Bavar, as we are going to see, instead of Babar, is simply due to Vedicism, where the sounds B and V are confused. Some historians consider the Bavars to have been a nomadic group occupying the region of Mauritania Transtagenenses. Others argue they were a tribal confederation of mountaineers and farmers, divided into two main groups. One group, in the west of Mauritania Transtagenenses, was the strongest and endured for many centuries, threatening Roman authority even during the Pax Romana. The other group, in the east, did not endure as long but was no less formidable. The relationship between the two is unclear, but they probably shared an ancient common origin or simply had the same name simultaneously, as was the case with other contemporary tribes. Regarding the Western Bavars, the historian Ammianus Marcellinus mentioned them under a distorted form, Bavars, during their negotiations with Theodosius the Editor during Firmus War between 373 and 374 AD. Additionally, Julius Honorius identified the river Malva as the border between them and their neighbors, the Bakwits, in northern Morocco. The Liturculus Veronensis or Verona list, the Liber Generationis, and its appendant, the Excerpta Latina, also mention the Bavars while listing other North African tribes, but without specifying their exact locations. Moving from historical texts to epigraphical documents, there are three inscriptions concerning the Western Bavars. An inscription from the ancient city of Volubilis in modern-day Morocco, dating back to Alexander Severus' reign, attests to a conference between a certain Prolgat, supposed to be Furius Celsus, and a local chieftain bearing the title, Prince of the Bavars and the Bakwits. This may indicate a temporary alliance between the Bavars and their neighbors in northern Morocco, as Julius Honorius already mentions. Two Christian epitaphs found at Dewar Arbel document late references to the Bavars. The first, dating to the late 4th or 5th century AD, was dedicated by Aurelia Majorca in memory of her husband, Marco Lollius Sabinus, who was killed by the Bavars. The second honors Publius Aelius Felix, who died at the age of 30, also killed by the Bavars. As for the Eastern Bavars, several documents attest to their activities. At Tiniat Mexin, Algeria, an inscription dating to around 255 AD commemorates a Roman victory against local rebels at the same site, including the capture of three kings, Taganin, Masmal, and Fame, alongside three other prominent figures, Afram, Phasavan, and Vivaciquia, likely relatives of the kings. The Romans used this inscription as a warning to the population against rebellion. In Lambesis, near modern-day Batna, Caius Macrinus Decianus, the legate of Numidia, erected a dedication around 260 AD to thank the gods for victory against the Bavars. The conflict involved four kings who led the Barbarian troops into Numidia. The campaign began near Milev, modern Mila, and extended to the borders of Numidia and Mauritania Transtagenenses. The inscription also highlights simultaneous victories over the Quinquagentiani and Fraxinenses, two other important native rebel groups, whom they were allies of the Bavars. Another dedication from the same site was made by a certain Flavius Leontinus, also commemorating a victory against the Bavars. An inscription from Saur al-Ghazlain, the ancient Asia, commemorates the Roman commander Quinto Gargilius Martialis, who captured the rebel Faraxin, but was later assassinated in April 260 AD in an ambush carried out by the Bavars. In Al-Mahdia, Algeria, another inscription references Marcus Cornelius Octavianus, continuing his war against the Babars, who are explicitly described as rebels from the region where the inscription was raised. In Miliana, Algeria, a late 3rd century AD dedication by Elias Aelianus, the governor of Mauritania Caesariensis, honors the indigenous gods Di Mauri and commemorates his victory over a Babar subgroup, the Mesgnenses. Carcapino suggested that this group represents the ancestors of the future Beni Mesgin, mentioned by Ibn Khaldun to live near Oran. The battle is believed to have occurred near the site of the inscription. Other inscriptions concerning the Bavars include one in Churchill, the ancient Caesarea. Governor Aurelius Litua dedicated an inscription to Jupiter and other gods, celebrating his triumph over a Babar faction, referred to as the Transtagenenses. Initially, the use of Babares in this inscription instead of Bavares raised doubts about their connection to the Bavars. However, it was later accepted that they were the same. The term Transtagenenses, meaning beyond the marshes that are common in the region, was likely to distinguish this group from other Bavars who inhabited more coastal regions. For these reasons, Nasser ben Sedek attributed to this faction the Bavars mentioned in El Bayad, south of one of these marshes, Shot Etrgai, where Caius Octavius Pudens, procurator of Mauritania Caesariensis, raised a dedication to Jupiter, commemorating his victory over the Bavars, with many members of the tribe killed or captured in the conflict. In other words, the researcher did classify them with the Western Bavars. Ahmed Cherek, however, suggests that this faction occupied the region of the Oras, east of Shat el-Hadna. It was also in this region, according to Pierre Morizet, that the seat of a Christian Catholic bishop called Victorinus, referred to as Episcopus Babernsis, was located. Victorinus died in 484 AD. To summarize, the Bavars were engaged in a long-standing conflict with the Romans, though the surviving sources largely reflect the Roman perspective. However, there are inscriptions related to the Bavars in a non-conflict context. A bilingual funerary inscription from Tripolitania highlights the Bavars' tribal identity. It commemorates a prince, Murirabin son of Isiquer, from the tribe of Bavars. Babar is mentioned as name for an individual in Tipasa, Algeria, where a mosaic commemorates a certain Bavaria. The destiny of this tribal confederation remains unclear, as historical sources cease to mention them. However, their heritage continues to this day. Different scholars suggest that the Babres Mountains in the region of Kabylia inherited their name from their ancient inhabitants, the Bavars. It is also in the Kabylia region that the Amazigh tribe of Katama still exists. This tribe played a significant role in the rise of the Fatimid Caliphate during the medieval ages and was known in antiquity under the name Koitamasiai, as mentioned by Ptolemy. Kemps suggests that Katama was one of the Barbarian fractions. More exactly, he suggests that the Bavars were a Katami fraction that took leadership on the others during the centuries of revolution, until that Katama return as the main tribe. In the region of the Oras, different tribes of Amazigh origin and regions are named Bavars. Beni Babar, Wad Babar, or simply Babar. The ancient queen of this mountains, according to the late Islamic sources, Dihya, do have an ancestor called Bavra, according to Ibn Khaldun, which is also can pass as a possible reading of Bavar of the ancient Latin inscriptions. The most important theory in this regard comes from Gabriel Camps. According to him, the word Berber originates from this tribal confederation. Usually, the term is linked to the Latin word barbarus, meaning foreigner. However, not only the Amazighs were barbarous for the Romans. So why did only they inherit the term? The Romans themselves referred to their ancestors as Libyans or Moors. Historically, it was common for the name of a single tribe to become generalized for all North African tribes. For example, Libyans derives from the tribe of Libu, mentioned by the ancient Egyptians as living in Cyrenaica. Similarly, Moors, or Maori, originally referred to a group in northern Morocco, but later came to represent all non-Romanized Africans. Could Camp's theory be correct? The history of the Bavars, though not entirely documented, offers a significant perspective on the tribal structures and political dynamics of North Africa during antiquity. As a resilient confederation, they played a crucial role in shaping the region's response to the Romans. Their story, while is overshadowed by the narratives of their enemies, adds depth to our understanding of North African history and the diverse societies that flourished there. Thank you for watching, and see you again in another video.